you just say, why don't you handle it? And they handle it, but they don't handle it using your SOPs and your way of doing it. They may have gotten the job done, but they broke with protocol. Yeah, they got it done, but we all have to be singing off the same sheet of music.
This is the PMP Industry Insider Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome out to another episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast, where we take a look at what is changing in the pest and lawn industries, and we take you to the front lines, to those that are driving those changes. I'm Donnie Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, which has Triangle Pest as well as Triangle Lawn. Might I add my two favorite pest and lawn companies. And with me is the I'm just trying to think. Something. I don't know. Mr. Dan.
I thought that was what we're trying to get at it.
Yeah, probably.
Which means, what does that mean? Like
everywhere.
All-powerful?
All-powerful, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Take it away. That was your intro, Dan.
Right. Dan Gordon.
He is also all about knowing.
Right. PCO bookkeepers, M&A specialists. So, we do the CFO and the accounting for pest and lawn, as well as exit planning services. We have three sponsors. Our sponsors are Coalmarch, and Coalmarch is a marketing company. They do a lot of digital. They do a lot of non-digital, and they are offering a free month to podcast listeners. If you want to find out more and claim this offer, go to coalmarch.com/podcast. PestSure, they are a industry-specific insurance company for our industry, and they offer general liability, auto, and workers' comp, as well as a few other things, but mainly for our industry. That would be sure.com if you're interested, and Voice for Pest, which is a pest management industry leader in designing and implementing unparalleled voice solutions for PCOs of any size, coast to coast. Learn more at voiceforpest.com/podcast. And the last thing, which is pretty exciting. These groups just keep growing. We've got so many of them, so many people participating, are the peer groups. And if you're interested, go back to episode 136, where we talk with David Billingsley, one of our facilitators, who is, he did a whole topic on that, but I don't know what the number is, but Caleb Cunningham, who we did maybe a week or two ago, he's in one of our peer groups, and he talks about it. It's pretty good stuff. So if you're interested in a peer group, just join us at pmpindustryinsider.com, and you can see it on the website, or just email us and we can put you in the right direction.
This is going to sound a little self-serving, but listen, the big takeaway that I think that came from the Caleb episode, and I mean, I would say the same thing from, Brian and a few other folks that we've had on, is that, joining these peer groups will absolutely get your business to the next level if you're willing to, number one, join one, and it doesn't need to be ours, it could be any, right? But the second thing is then be accountable, right? Because ultimately what you're doing is you get around other folks who are trying to do the same thing. And like most things, right? 10 brains are better than one, unless you're dealing with young boys, and then 10 brains actually they get dumber the more you put together. So, but not the case with peer groups. So I know that because I have young boys, and I tell you, you put 10 of them in a room, and their collective intellect go down 10 times.
Right. Well, that's because you're dealing with that now. But if you had if your daughter's going through it, yeah.
Well, it's totally different. So yeah. So you want to get us through tell us our topic and then our guest, and then we're going to jump right in, because I'm actually excited about talking about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, this is good stuff. And the reason it's good stuff is it relates to the peer group. It relates to some of the other things that we're talking about. And it relates to a lot of the discussions that I'm having with current clients, and it's people issues, right? The overarching theme, there's two things that really everybody wants to know about: how to hire, keep good people in marketing. And today we're going to talk about, hiring or why people decisions matter. And so the interesting thing here is that a lot of what we're going to talk about comes from EOS or traction. Neither Donnie and I are implementers, although Donnie has an implementer on his team. We both use it in our company, so very familiar with it. But if you want to kind of
Yeah.
go further into
Can I
that
jump into
intro.
that? Well, listen, I think probably the setup for this is that the actual topic, which Dan alluded to but did not actually say, which is getting your people decisions right, is the name of the episode. And it's actually the topic that we want to talk about today, because here's what I will say. If you are a smaller business, it's pretty simple, right? I'm not saying it's easy, but it's pretty simple, right? Especially if you're on a route and you're in the truck and you're the one that's doing the stops, you know, it's fairly simple. It's when you start adding people to the equation that it starts getting more and more difficult. And listen, it doesn't stop, because ultimately what happens is as your business scales, you scale as a person from being someone who's usually fairly, someone who's usually, fairly, I'd say, technical. You're going to have to turn into someone who's all about people. And that's really going to be, you're like what you do as a business owner. In fact, it'll be all that you do. And so this is what you do as a business owner. This is what you focus on. This is what you have to be really, really good at. And sometimes people think, oh, I need to be good at finance. I need to be good at marketing. Nope. Nope. You need to know about those things, but you don't need to be good at them, because there ain't a single thing that you can't outsource. But this is one thing that falls squarely on your shoulders. It's who are you going to surround yourself with, and then how are you going to make decisions concerning those folks. And so that's what we want to get into. We want to talk about getting your people decisions right, and then how to make those, because ultimately, as you scale your business, as you get larger, this is going to be, and I'm sure folks that are listening, they're probably shaking their head, because this is the meat and potatoes of what we do. And so let's just start with the why, right? Why people decisions matter. And this sounds like so obvious, but the fact is that it's not as straightforward as you might think. And the reason I say that is that they're dynamic, right? I don't know if you've ever had this, Dan. I've had it happen multiple times. I hire someone and they are a rock star and they're just killing it. And then after the first year, they're not quite as sharp, but they're still killing it. And then every additional year, it's a little bit less. And then one day you wake up and you're like, wait a minute, they're the reason that we're not growing anymore. Yeah, what, and
No, I
so
don't hold on to them that long. So
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. No, but my point here is that it's dynamic, because listen, we're all crazy, and if dealing with people, like we're rational, we're emotional, we have all these different things that are happening, and they're just not as black and white as numbers, right? They're not as black and white and these decisions are not as black and white, and there's also this whole thing of emotion and feelings, and I'm not saying those things are bad, but they all play into the calculus of what you do and what you don't do. Yet, as an owner, or as even a manager, this is where you make your money. And so bringing it back to traction, and we are going to use traction as kind of the basis for this discussion, because I feel like if you've not read traction, specifically if you've not read the people chapter in traction, even if you don't want to implement it, I think you should. And in traction, when they talk about the people component, they talk about two categories. The first one is that getting the right people, meaning that well, let me just go through so it's right people, right seat. And I know we hear that a lot, but let me explain a little bit about what that means. When we talk about the right people, I have had this happen multiple times where I hire someone and they're amazing at their job. When I say they're amazing, like they hit their numbers, they're very good about performance, but for whatever reason, there's something about their personality, there's something about one of their core values that does not line up. And I know you've never experienced this with a salesperson, but I have. I had a salesperson working for me one time who was amazing. I mean, they brought in so much business, but there was one core value issue.
they were overselling and maybe
Integrity.
things that
Yes.
there's no way you could ever achieve.
Integrity.
Even.
Yes,
I've
exactly.
never experienced
No, no one ever has, right? Especially a good salesperson, because I don't know what it is, but for some reason, at least my experience, most salespeople who are really, really good are I mean, they're just disasters in their personal lives. Not all, but a large majority
I
of them
have
are.
a great story from way back when, so some of the younger guys might not remember this, but this is kind of funny. And this is a true story, and I had to fire this sales guy. This back before cell phones, we were using pagers, right? And I had a sales guy. I had a woman call me and say, "Yeah, I want to book the termite job." The salesman showed me exactly where the termites were with the termite finder. So this guy Alan comes back, and I said, "Alan, what is a termite finder?" And he pulls his beeper out and says, "You point at it, hit the button, and it goes beep." And so I terminated him right at that point. And called
Oh gosh,
and sent
the
out
uses
another
of a beeper.
instructor.
Maybe we
Yeah,
need to order some more of those if you can find them. I don't know if you can find them on eBay, but so bringing it
yeah,
back around, right? The two components of people. There's two pieces. One is right people, which means that they align with your company core values, and then once you've established that, because that's a no go, right? If someone doesn't share your core values, they're not hardworking, they don't have integrity, they're not committed to excellence, whatever your core values are. I mean, for ours, it's go rise. I've talked about it multiple times. But if they're the right people, then the next question is finding a seat that they're going to succeed in, because not everyone is going to be a manager, just like not everyone's going to be a PMP, not everyone's going to be a CSR. And so finding people who share your core values, that's kind of the first side of the equation. Now, once you've established that, and that is absolutely primary there, then after that, it's what seat can they succeed in? Because ultimately, and I've made this mistake, is I have found a good seat for someone that they can succeed in that seat. However, they were not the right person because they didn't have the core values, and vice versa, right? I've had folks who've had the right core values, but I didn't have a seat at the business that they could succeed in because for whatever reason, either we're not big enough, or whatever it is that they wanted, or the way that, their life view, it just didn't work. And so the point here is that, and again, this is explained very well in traction, is before you do anything, these are the two pieces that need to be in alignment, right? Meaning sure that you understand, you know, who the right people are and what the right seats are. And the biggest challenge to me is that when you have someone who's pretty good, you know what I mean? Like they kind of fit your core values, they kind of succeed in their role, but they're not the best fit,
yeah.
especially
Yeah.
if they've been on staff for quite some time. These are hard. This is like the scene in Old Yeller, right?
No, but there are certain people in your organization that can take you to a certain level, and then they, because you've given them or empowered them to be the leader, but they clearly don't have the skill set to move it to the next level. That's a very, very difficult one. It's kind of, it's interesting now that PE is so involved in our industry. What we're seeing is a lot of these PE companies might take on, they want to get this $5 million company that's been around for 20 years that's making $1 million a year. It's great for the owner. Everything's good. But they're saying, okay, we're going to buy your company. You're going to roll equity and we're going to take this thing to $100 million. And they
Right.
fail. Why do
Yeah.
they fail? The guy's been around for 20 years. He knows how to run a $5 million company. Running a
Mhm.
$100 million company is a totally different skill set.
Yeah, it's a different ball game.
And and
100%.
and but a lot of these guys who are spreadsheet jockeys don't understand what it takes to run a very large organization. So
Sure it is. All you do is you just grab the bottom right corner and and
yeah,
and you, and you drag that cell over so it goes
right.
10x. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
So just yeah,
yeah,
20x times five.
there
There
you
you go.
go.
100
All
million. Just
problem solved.
20. Yep. It's good.
So let's talk about how we make this determination. So this entire conversation is really around those two concepts: right person in terms of core values, and then right seat for that specific person. And I will tell you, this one chapter is the chapter that made me a fan of traction because, you hear someone as a culture fit, and it's like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know how to make sure. I mean, if I ask someone, do you have integrity? They're gonna be like, no. Right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, how do you really do that? And listen, there's a tool inside of Traction called the People Analyzer tool, And I think this thing is absolute gold. It's dead simple. I mean, listen, if I can understand it and Dan can understand it, I mean, that's saying something, okay? And I think Dan can understand it. He says that he can. So when we talk about right people, what that means is that you sit down and you write out your core values, whatever they are, right? This is assuming that you have them defined, and you score that person or each person on your team with either a plus minus, or a negative. And that is, I mean, again, this is, I don't know why I didn't think about this, probably because I'm not very smart, but I will say, this for the first time for me, I remember when I read this, I'm like, well, now that's how you do it, right? That's how you decide. Because what happens is that we go down the path, 1, 2, 3, 4 years with a person, and we never stop to kind of back up and reassess. Like, this is where this person's at now, because it does change. And so, this is something that we do here at Triangle. We do it every quarter. Every time there's a pulse, then I do this for my leadership team. My leadership team's doing it for the managers. The managers doing it for their team. And you literally, I mean, for us, it's go rise, right? Growth, ownership, respect, integrity, service, excellence, and we score them. Plus, plus, minus, and minus. And if someone hasn't got a couple minuses in that, guess what that means?
They're not on the right. They're
Wrong
not in the right
person.
seat.
Not only are they not in the right, it's not, no, this is right people. It means
Oh,
that they
right.
have changed, right? This has nothing to do with performance at this point. This is just simply, does this person fit our core values or not? Because again, people change, and you need to take the time to back away, get objective about it. Because what happens is we get so busy that we don't take that time to do that, and we don't get that kind of clarity. And so this people analyzer tool for me has been life changing, because it brings me the clarity of like, yeah, this person is, they still fit our core values. Yes, they're still operating within our core values. They're still behaving in our core values. And those are very different things. And it is dynamic and it does change. So that's the, we talk about right people. That's the how to do it. Anything to add before I kind of keep going?
No, I think also if so, the book Traction is definitely must reading for this, and then Good to Great, which is where the whole bus thing got started on the right people,
Yeah.
right seats.
So
Get on
let's
the
talk
bus.
about right seats, right? I mean, so in right seats, and listen, there's Traction talks about this. I think E-Myth
Mhm.
talks about it. I mean, pretty much any business book you can find, they talk about an org chart. The different flavor that EOS does that I actually like, and E-Myth does this as well, is that they don't call it an org chart, they call it an accountability chart. And in that accountability chart, you define what needs to happen in the business and then who's going to be responsible for it. And the other thing I like about it in EOS is that there's no like, um, you ever had someone who reported to two people? It never works,
Right.
right? And I say it, I mean that, like, it never works. I have never once in my life seen it where someone reports to multiple people, and those individual people that they report to is getting what they need out of that person. I've never seen that work ever.
You know what else is another one, which is kind of interesting, is you have a person who's, a good person, gets their job done and whatnot, and you're very busy, and they, you just say, why don't you handle it? And they handle it, but they don't handle it using your SOPs and your way of doing it. They may have gotten the job done, but they broke with the, with protocol. And how do you talk to others about that? Yeah, they got it done, but we all have to be singing off the same sheet of music.
Yeah, and that's where I think standards and procedures come into play, right? If you don't have very clear standards and procedures, that will happen,
Mhm.
and that's a leadership issue, right? That's your problem, because you should have been clear up front. Then this is not only what I want you to do, but this is how I want you to do it. Now, assuming that you have procedures and protocol, and they still go beyond that, well, now that might be another issue. That might be a right people person and core values and those types of things. And so it's all about clarity,
But
right?
by the way, there's nothing wrong with them suggesting, hey, let's improve this process this way and this way. But if they just go off on their own without, anybody's buy-in, that then it becomes a problem. Even if they get the job done, it's not a good long-term solution.
Correct. Correct. So we're under this construct that you need the right people and you need them in the right seat. And the way that you know that you have the right people is that you run the people analyzer tool on every single person in your organization. You give them a plus, plus minus, or a minus based on your core values. And then from that, you make hard decisions. This person fits our core values or they don't. So that's kind of test number one, is finding the right people. Number two is that you clearly define the accountabilities or what needs to get done in your business, and then who's responsible for that. And it's one only. When I say it's one only, like there's only one person responsible, there's not two. It's not like you can have marketing and head of sales both in charge of new revenue. Nope, nope. It needs to be one person, one responsibility, one accountability. So that's the right seat piece of it. So now the next question becomes, once you have that established, how do you determine if that person is being successful or if they're in the right seat or not? Listen, and this is a different conversation from that's a good person versus they're in the wrong seat. We have lots and lots of good people who are not in the right seat. And just like you have lots of people who maybe not be great, but they're in the right seat. And so what I mean by that is that ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to maximize the performance of your business. And what I'm telling you is that as an owner, you're the only one that makes the key people decisions. And if you don't have a system, you don't have a way of getting outside of all the dynamics that are happening and detaching from the entire and being able to look at it objectively, performance is going to suffer, and you're going to see it as a business owner. So getting it back to, well, now how do I decide how this person's doing? How do I evaluate if they're the right person for the right seat? We talked about right people. Now let's talk about right seat. And this is just gold. This is straight out of Traction. It's to get it, want it, and capacity to do it. And when you hear that, if you listen to Traction, if you read it or whatever, everyone's like, oh yeah, I understand it. What I have found is that people forget what this means.
I agree.
They
I agree.
forget what it means. And it
Yeah.
sounds so simple. Yeah, they get it and they want it. They have capacity to do it. So what I've started doing is that when we do this exercise as leadership team, is I actually read the definition straight out of the book. Because, you may say, well, do they get it? Well, do they, for you, Dan, that might be like, well, do they intellectually understand the job? Okay, cool. All right. I might say, do they understand their job and how that job fits into the bigger picture so they can make better decisions? And then someone else who's listening may have a completely different definition. And so what happens is that over time, our definitions of get it, want it, capacity to do it will change, or there's things that we'll forget. And so what I like to do is I like to start with, here's the definition of get it. They truly understand the role, the systems, the work, and how their job fits into the bigger picture. You know, they have, there has to be a natural feel, instinct and awareness of what they're doing. And do they really and truly get it? And if that's the true test, if that's the true definition, now when you sit down to grade someone, do they get it? Now it's like a common definition that we're all using. Because again, depending on who you are, you know, I don't know. I hate to say this, but I'm kind of a softy sometimes too, right? Like, oh yeah, they
Get
get
out of
it.
here.
I am. I'm dead serious.
Unbelievable.
But I tell you, it's the truth. And it's like,
I
well, I
bought
get
into
it.
everything you said up until
It's,
now.
that is so true, though. Like, I will look at someone, I'm like, oh, yeah, they get it. Yeah. And it's because I want them to get it, not because they really get it. Right. I mean, so my whole idea here is that, if you're looking for, are they in the right seat? It's the whole idea behind a get it, want it, capacity to do it test. And I already said the definition of get it. Want it is they genuinely want the role and are internally motivated to do the work. That's want it. Okay. Now, that's a key definition because there's tons of people who get the role and they can do the role, but they don't necessarily want to do the role.
Right.
And you will see that in their performance, right? And you'll see it in how they approach their work. And you'll see it in their demeanor, right? If they're not energized by what they're doing, they don't want it, right? And if you're having to kind of like keep pushing, they don't want it. And listen, if someone doesn't really want it, they're never going to want it, and your performance is going to suffer. Simple as that. Okay, the last test is capacity to do it, and this one is heart. I call it Heartbreak Hill, right? And the reason I call it Heartbreak Hill is because I'm going to read the definition. The definition is they have the time, skills, intellect, emotional maturity, physical ability, and knowledge to do the job well. And then there's a lot in that definition because, listen, there's a lot of people who get it, there's a lot of people who want it, and likewise, there's many who don't have the capacity to do it for whatever reason, right? You may have someone who is amazing at their job, but their emotional maturity is such that they're just devastating to your team. They're devastating to your leadership team, or they're devastating to whatever team it is. Like, I know you've never had PMPs like this, but I certainly have. And I mean, I can remember back when I was running our little branch and we were less than $1 million. I mean, I had a couple of folks that rolled through that were, they got it, they understood it, they wanted to do it, but for whatever reason, they didn't have the emotional maturity, right? It would, like, we would have a meeting and then,
They were the crap stirrers.
well, I mean, it's really exactly, that's
Yeah, yeah,
exactly
that's
right.
that's a
And I mean,
real
and listen,
phenomenon.
and I'm
And I
using
don't
that as an
mean, and
example.
it's not crap. It's
What is that, Dan? But
right.
my point here is that, I mean, I'm using the PMP as an example, but listen, this absolutely plays out on corporate leadership teams, right? I mean, someone having the emotional maturity to deal with, hey, you screwed that up. Can you be accountable to that, and can you own it? Because listen, a lot of people can't own mistakes, and if you can't own mistakes here, yeah, you don't have that capacity. You may have everything else, but this is not what. So my point here is that, you know, there's, when you're looking at the two things, which is right people, right seat, you've got the first test, which is the people analyzer. Do they fit our core values? The GWC, it's kind of ruthless. And what I mean by that is, like, again, it's another tool for you to kind of back up, get objective, detach from the situation, detach from what's going on, and really asking the question, hey, does this person really get what it is that I need them to do? Do they want to do what it is that I need them to do? And are they capable of doing exactly what I want them to do? And if the answer to that question is no on any of those, if there's a no on any of those three, then guess what that means?
Wrong seat or wrong person, wrong bus,
Correct.
wrong
That's not
company.
the right
We're
seat for
not.
them.
It's not a
And
good.
it's not a good fit. And the reality of it is that your business is going to suffer. And this is what you get paid as an owner to do, or as a manager. This is the hard work of doing what you do. And the reality of it is that as long as you're willing to accept it and say, well, I'm going to allow this person to prevent us from growing, I'm going to allow this person to prevent us from doing whatever it is, getting to the next level, then that's a decision. But now at least it's clear to you as to what the problem is. Because oftentimes, if you don't go through this exercise and you don't really think through your people, you'll bang your head against problems that are actually symptoms, right? It's like I just keep solving symptom after symptom after symptom. They just keep popping up. They just keep popping up because I'm not getting, the problem just keeps creating more symptoms. You
Give
know
an
what I'm saying?
example. Give an example of a symptom as opposed
Oh, a good symptom would be I have high turnover,
to.
and this person was good and now they're bad. Okay, so you fire them, right? And then we hire someone else, and then that person's good for a while and then they're bad. And then all of a sudden it's just like, well, we just keep having these people issues on the front line. And the reality of it is that they have a bad leader, right? The leader can't either motivate them, give them clarity as to what it is that they need to do, or they're not managing it. So you're sitting here turning over people on the front line when really those are just symptoms of a bigger problem. Now, I'm not always saying that's going to be the manager. You may have problems where you don't have clear SOPs. You may have some other issue going on where you have staffing issues or whatever. But that is a great example. I've seen that happen multiple times where a manager is like pointing out there that there's a problem with this person, not really owning the fact that they're not leading the right way and they're truly the problem. And listen, I've done this, right? I mean, there's been times that I've blamed people for stuff, and then when the when the house gets blown up, and I'm sitting here kind of like, going back through what happened, I realized, oh, I made this mistake here. I should have took action there. I should have done this. And then who's the real problem here? Right? It's me. And so I'm certainly guilty of this. I don't want anyone that's listening to this to think that I've got it all figured out, because I do make these mistakes just like everyone else. But the fact is that, this ability, having these tools in place, are designed so that you make these decisions early before they do blow up, or before you flatline. And when I say flatline, meaning like, for whatever reason, the business has hit, it's hit a plateau, and now all of a sudden, not only you're not growing, but you're not making profit, and then you're in a hurt locker, right? So in any case, you're going to go through two things: the people analyzer, and then the second one is get it one at capacity. Now, here's the critical part. So you use these two tools, you detach from what's going on, you objectively look at your folks, and now you're sitting here staring at this piece of paper or whatever it is that you're using or this spreadsheet or whatever, and now you've got clear data. And this is the key part of the entire process.
Hmm.
It's the following through.
Right.
Because I can't tell you how many times in my own company now that I have sat in front of one of these and we're all having lots and lots of discussion, but we're not having the discussion. And the discussion is this person is the wrong person or they're in the wrong seat, and what are we going to do about it? And instead of us like saying, well, we need to put them in a different seat. And by the way, we've gotten better at this. We used to suck at it, and I'm not going to tell you that we're awesome at it, but the point here is the idea of doing this entire exercise is for you to gain clarity as to here's what's happening with my people, here's where they're at right now, and here's what I need from them, and here are decisions, here are the key people decisions that I need to make, and I need to make the right ones, and I need to make them right now. I'm not telling you that if you've got like a key manager and you get through this process and you're like, oh, wrong person, wrong seat, that you walk right out of that meeting and you go and can them right on that. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply making the point that, if they fail GWC, that's a real critical issue. That's probably a seat change. Same way for people analyzer. Now, I'm not telling you if someone is like, not really performing, they could still pass GWC with training or whatever. But a failure on GWC is a fundamental failure. And if someone doesn't have the capacity or they don't get it and they don't want it, they are never going to get there. And
But
that is
these are
something
for
that you
job functions because they might be the right seat. They still might be there on the right bus, or are they just on
right.
the wrong bus? They just,
Well, and that's why we say it's two pieces to this, right? It's do they have our core values? Are they our people? And then okay, they are our people, and are they in the right seat? And it could very well be a seat change. And listen, we've actually had this work out in a good way where I've been able to retain the right people and just put them in a different seat. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to end in a firing. You know what I mean? Or
mm,
it doesn't always have to end that way, and it doesn't have to be ugly, right? Because then you could just kind of come back and be, look, we're not this role isn't working. And listen, if the person is being honest, you're not going to tell them anything that they don't already know, right?
well, one of the most difficult, like if it's a horizontal move, maybe a technician to sales or whatever, that's fine. But if it's a leader that has to be demoted, that's a tough one to swallow. It can be done, but it's not, you're,
It's a
you're
tough
behind the
one.
eight ball before you even start. So,
But I think a lot of people, to answer your question, you are right, and what you're dealing with there is ego, right? The right person will say, you know what, you're right, and this isn't working for me, and I know that I'm not doing well as a leader. I really want to get out of this seat, and I've had this happen at least three times that I can remember where we successfully moved him to another role. One was horizontal, two were demotions, and they were relieved.
mhm.
Because listen, I don't need to like I don't get my fulfillment out of being rude to folks or I mean at the end of the day it's like hey I'm trying to succeed and I want to create a winning team and not everyone is a point guard just like not everyone what I mean like and we don't know that until we get in until we start playing the game and I think your folks are the same way especially if they're super committed to the organization they don't want to fail either so you want to make it so that they're in a place where they can succeed, the business can win, and we're all doing what we need to do. And so I think in a lot of cases, if you apply this and you come to this conclusion that, hey, they're in the wrong seat, most people are really good people. They're going to know this and they're going to be relieved. And if you can provide them with a path, there's something to do, especially if you have a really good organization, they're going to appreciate that. And that's what you should be doing as a good leader. So, in any case, that's how you apply it is like, okay, now that you've done this test, it's the follow through that really, really matters. And if you're not willing to do the follow through, don't bother doing the exercise, right? Because there's no
Mhm.
point. So, okay. And then I think probably, we need to finish up here. There's a couple more caveats I want to add to this. Okay, so it's great if you understand how to do GWC. It's more important to teach your people what GWC means and how to do it because ultimately, you want to create a system where if you have a larger staff or you have managers or whatever, you want to be able to cut through bias, and we all have them, and you want to cut through politics. And that, listen, I mean, I had a guy tell me many, many years ago when I was in the military, he goes, look, politics are there. He's like, you can fight them or you can just accept it. He goes, but the fact is, if you accept them, you're going a lot further than if you reject it. He was right. But, and my point here is that, there are favorites, there are biases, and everyone has them. So you need to put tools in place not only for yourself but for your managers and your leaders that cut through all of that and create clarity. Because ultimately, if you're not able to see through, your filter, and your staff's not able to see through their filter, ultimately as a business you're going to suffer. And so you want to put a tool in place that helps them do that and create that clarity. Um, so when you're able to get it right, right, if you're able to create a team where people get it, they want it, they have capacity to do it, what you're going to find is that your organization is going to get, I mean, just it's, there's going to be less conflict. People are going to be able
Yep.
to execute a lot faster. Your folks are going to be happier, and you're going to make a lot of money. I mean
Yep.
that. I mean,
Yep.
seriously, you're going to, and I really do mean that. And Dan, I mean, listen, we sit in a lot of groups. I can tell you, we're trying to get there. We're getting closer, right? But ultimately, it is about the people that you decide to keep around you and what you're willing to tolerate. And I know that sounds like everyone intellectually understands that, but you need tools. At least for me, I need tools to create that clarity because for whatever reason, it's very easy for me to kind of get in my little routine. And if I don't step back and like just objectively evaluate it, I'm like, yeah, Dan's a good guy, right? He's fine. I mean, I'm using that the name as a,
But if
I'm just,
you if you pull this whole get it, want it, capacity to do it thing, it comes out of traction. Traction will tell you that you don't pick and choose what you want from traction. And who am I to argue with that? Because it's a very successful system. However, this tidbit, when I read it, and I've read it over and over again, and we kind of practice it in our organization too. We're full on board with traction, but this tidbit, I think you can pull it out on its own. I know that Gino Wickman and that whole crew would disagree with me and say, no, you've got it. This is part of the framework. What do you think?
yeah, listen, we've had this discussion multiple times and, technically the definition of traction to be fully on traction really means to be 80%. And so I
I
mean,
never
but it
heard
is,
that.
it
Right?
is true though. If you look it up in traction, the definition of
Yeah.
being far enough along is that you're trying to reach 80%. And so it's like most things, right? You never reach excellence. It's the pursuit of that that really makes you an excellent company. And so no one's ever 100%.
Mhm.
No one ever makes 100%, but that's not the point, right? The point is the process, right? The point is it's like chasing the horizon. It's like, the point is to get better. And so to your point, Dan, no one ever is ever going to be 100%. And this one chapter is what sold me on traction itself. And so, this maybe you can do it one off. I mean, I don't know, but listen, if someone's done the work and put it all together and it's working, then I don't know. I mean, listen, there's other things. I mean, I can go out and invent my own car, but or I can go to the dealership and drive one, right? I know what
Mhm.
I'm going to do. So let's wrap it up. I guess the main thing, if we're going to close it all out here, is this: is that if someone doesn't get it, they don't want it, or have the capacity to do it, they're in the wrong seat, right? They are absolutely in the wrong seat. And it's your job as the owner to make sure that you make those people decisions quickly and you do it confidently, right? And the way that you do that confidently is you use tools that create that clarity. Because at the end of the day, the company's growth, your team's happiness, and the profit of the business all falls on you and your ability to make the right people decisions. And so this episode is all about getting clarity on that. Again, I didn't create Get It, Want It capacity to do it. I'm just a big fan of it now because I've seen it work. And, I've made these decisions in the past and I've done these things, but usually they're on the backside of a problem and they're usually too late. When I say
Yeah.
they're too late, I could have been way more proactive. And so that's why we wanted to share it. Is like it's been a great tool for us. It creates a lot of clarity. Dan, I think you guys do the same thing. I think anyone who's doing this would say, yes, and even if you are using traction, for me, what I have learned is that our understanding of it and our practice of it, um, I still
You
have
got to
work
read that book over and over
over
and,
and
and,
over
and listen
again.
to the audio book as
Exactly.
well.
Exactly. So,
So.
All right. With that, we're going to wrap up. Of course, if there's any, we say all the resources and topics that we talked about today are going to be available on the podcast website. Just take a look at pmpindustryinsider.com. Take a look under show notes. We always appreciate positive reviews and ratings. And with that, we say if you're going to complain, send it over to Dan. He loves that kind of comments, and he loves, those types of discussions as well. So we encourage you to call him also. And with that, we're going to sign off. We'll see you all next time. Take care.
Take care. See ya.